Welcome to Mindboost Moments, a podcast for those who want to hear from like-minded people and how they're making a dent in the world. So join me on my continued journey of learning and discovery. Today I'm pleased to be joined by Helene Wood, who's a self-proclaimed Excel geek and advocate for keeping team members safe at BaxterStorey. Helene is deeply aware of the perception health and safety has, but with her operations and training background as a very engaging and authentic way to engage a team around her, and thrives on working with people to create innovative solutions. This is Mindboost Moments.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's a really tricky question, I suppose. But I did think about it in terms of work, and I think for me, it's trying to change that perception. Because as soon as you say to somebody, or you're out and about, or you're, I don't know, at the weekend, someone says, "Oh, you know, like, what is it that you do for a job?" And then you say you're a safety manager. They're like, "Okay, really? Like, great." And you can see that kind of view, and you think, actually, like, that's not at all what I do. Like, your perception of what I do is completely, opposite from what it is in reality. And I kind of enjoy that when I go out into locations, and if it's people I haven't met before, or or places that I haven't been before, and you can see that you go in there and they're like, everyone's like on edge. And it's like breaking that down and going, do you know what? I'm here to help you. You know, I don't have that. I don't know. I suppose I don't have that personality that comes in and goes, do you know what? No. This is wrong. That's wrong. The other's wrong. Yes, you have to identify these, that's part of what you do, right? But it's about how you do it and how you work with people to do that. And you understand those individuals and their locations. So I suppose that's, for me, something that's quite nice to get past, and quite a thing that I kind of, try and achieve every day, I guess.
I mean, and there's a common theme there that most people that I talk to have a commonality about engaging with people, getting the best out of people, trying to support people.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that's the thing that you're really enjoying. It's just that, the day job is almost a vehicle to do that.
Yeah, I suppose so. And I think it's that thing that people think of safety as kind of, the rules, the laws, what are you doing? What are you doing wrong? Someone's going to come in and tell you what you're doing wrong, because naturally that's the easiest thing to kind of, I suppose, identify, because if you're doing it well and you're doing it right, it's not so easy to kind of, to see that, because I don't know, the issues or the challenges haven't happened yet. And I think it's that, to say, actually, that's not what my role is. My role is about looking after people. Fundamentally, it's about how can I support my locations, my teams, to do everything they can to look after their teams and get the most out of their teams. And just, I guess, support our locations to be the best that they can.
Do you think it's easy to sort of, for people to then think, there's a right and a wrong way to do stuff? And I know that there is, but in certain things, but is there not an opportunity to like bounce lots of different ideas and to thoughts and, what do you think about this, and be really creative and try and do new things?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's about risk management and understanding. It's about understanding risk, right? And what measures you can put in place to kind of minimize that, mitigate that risk.
Yeah.
And I suppose I always think that I've only got one part of the puzzle. So I have the health and safety knowledge and what it is that we should be doing, and the experience of how to kind of manage that. But then also everybody, who works in that location, whoever they are, they have the knowledge of their location. And it's about trying to tap into that knowledge and put the two together, because it's all very well me saying, oh well, what you need to do is this, but actually if that's not practical or realistic or whatever, then you're almost, it would never happen, it would never work. So it's a sort of, it just would never happen.
But when you say they've got the knowledge, they've got the knowledge of not only their physical location, but also the relationships that they have with their client, their customers that come into that, their likes, their dislikes, their preferences of everything.
The equipment, whatever piece of equipment they're using and what have you. And, when you're looking at risk management and risk assessment, that thing that everyone's like, whoa, risk assessment, goodness. It's about the more people you can get involved with that and kind of reviewing that and thinking about it, the better that's going to be. Because I'll go in and I'll go, okay, well, these are reasonable control measures. And then I speak to somebody and they say, well, actually, like, something that I do is this. And you go, oh, like, I never thought of that. Like, and I love being kind of open to what else is there. I don't know all of, I don't have all of the answers. But then when you hear someone who's been doing their job for, however many years, they go, oh, actually, well, what I'm doing is this. And you think, that's pretty, that's quite a good solution. Let's add that in. And, and that's where you get, a really kind of good assessment, I suppose.
I suppose we've got to keep focusing on that everyone's trying to do the best thing for everyone else. And that means, so when you think about, say, a chef or a customer service assistant, they're trying to cook the best food, they're trying to give the best service. But as well, what that means is in the best environment. And that is just not what it looks like in the pictures that are hanging up, but, making sure that they come to work and they go home again at the end of every day. And so that's part of creating the world's best workplace, right? Is that make sure it's safe, because actually that puts trust in everybody else as well. And I guess that's part of your role as well, is to advise those location managers to go, I love this idea. If we just tweak this a little bit, it'd be really safe, or, this would be so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it links into service. If people are comfortable with their workplace, they're happy with where they're working, they feel like they're supported and they're safe, and they're, and that's not just, well, they're not going to trip over like physical, mental safety as well. Then they're going to drive that to their to customers, and they're going to deliver that experience that you want. Everyone wants them, to deliver. So, and I'm not saying that safety will change the world, but it has a massive impact. And people just, I think sometimes they get so kind of hung up on, it's laws and risk assessments and must do this, must do that, must do the other. And it is to a point, but actually it can really influence other areas of the work and the kind of the service that you're providing.
How do you change? Because I guess the immediate barrier that comes up is like health and safety is restrictive. That's a perception. Health and safety is restrictive, and I want to be a creative person and live within these boundaries. How do you balance that off for someone and go, yeah, but this is just another layer of the service that you've got to offer?
I guess the critical thing there is listening. And I know everyone says listening is key for everything, but actually, if you listen to someone's view, you kind of understand what it is where they're coming from. You understand their viewpoint on it, and then you say, okay, like I get that, and perhaps maybe this is something that we could do whilst we can't achieve what it is that exactly the way that you perhaps need it, want it, or whatever. I've understood what you're saying to me, and this is what we can how we can work together to find a good solution here. And
I guess the benefit of you working in a similar patch region and knowing those location managers is that they start building up that relationship with you and understand how you operate, rather than a sort of a faceless corporation that then goes, that's health and safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's one of the best parts of my job, is that you build those relationships with people, you start to talk to people, and you work with them to achieve the standards, that we want all of our locations to have. And then they'll have, I don't know, visits for external audits or other things, and they'll do really well. And you get this phone call and they'll be like, Helene, do you know what happened? And they're so excited and happy. And I just like that. I love that, because they've thought about, hang on a minute, let's phone her,
Yeah.
and say. So
But that's a journey, right, to get to that point, because they know that they've built up such a relationship with it that they're going, we couldn't have actually done it without you.
Yeah, and it's nice, and it's not to say that it's only bit, but that's a little bit of the kind of the the end of the process, right? That you can kind of see that, and it also means that that if there was a problem, or they were having challenges or something like that, that they would kind of come to you and say, oh, do you know,
they've got a good enough relationship.
Yeah.
So
I enjoy that.
So how do you then put sexy back into health and safety then, to make sure that that's part of the process, and that's how everyone recognizes could be really fun to do?
I think part of that is, well, something that I'm looking at is how we work with other parts of our business as well. It's not just looking at it as an isolation, as, oh, well, I've got to add this on and I'm doing safety now. This is a whole other thing that I've got to add on to my job role. But actually, if you can look at it and say, well, look, this is part of what we're doing, and we've engaged with the L&D team, we've engaged with the people team, like the nutrition, with the chef team, whoever it is, and what's really great about the business that we have is it's so open that I would never fear kind of picking up the phone to anybody and saying, hey, look, I've got this project that I'm working on. Is it something that you'd kind of want to get involved with? And we work closely with lots of other departments, so that it just means that it becomes integrated as part of what you do, rather than something that's added in as an extra effort that you need to add to your role.
What do you do then to encourage that collaboration? Because not all businesses are like that, are they? A lot of businesses are siloed in their operation, and therefore they're suffering the effects of, oh God, we've got to go through that team now. We don't, that's just going to be a bottleneck. Whereas it really sounds to me that you've got some, lots of people that you can draw on as part of this project. And whether they, spend a lot of time with that, or whether they give you some advice, vocal advice, what's the key then to working in that way?
I think it's at the beginning of the project, really or whatever initiative you're doing, is really thinking about who could be, who else could this impact, and kind of reaching out to those people, sending a Teams message. Or sometimes I've, been in the office and someone's passed by and said, oh, do you know, I'm working on this thing. Is that something? And they either chip in with a little bit of, information or insight, or, yeah, let's get onto a focus group or a call about that. And I find then that you have a really rounded team with lots of people from different kind of viewpoints coming into the one kind of project. So I think that's the thing, is just having that confidence to kind of email that person or send a Teams message or what have you. And everyone's, the company, I'm lucky, like I said, the company that we work for is really open to that.
I don't think that's luck, though. I don't think that's luck. I think that's something that's purposefully drives that, is what I observe. And I don't know if that's, that's expected of people to go, you need to care about this, whether this falls within your formal remit or not. People care, which is why they contribute. And I've seen that in your business. It's quite purposeful. I've got an opinion. I think it's a valid opinion. So let's have a conversation about it. Now, you can choose to dismiss that. But what I see in other businesses, people criticize from the sidelines and then don't contribute, and that's where you get, you know, this sort of negative culture of backbiting. But you know, I don't see that. I see that people care and they want to make things better.
Yeah. And I think personally as well, it's a thing, you know, not just in work, but outside of the workplace, is that you have those thoughts or whatever that you think, oh, do you know what, that's a bit frustrating, or that's a I don't know, that's not the way I would have done it, or whatever it is. And you just think, actually, I'm not being fair to that person by not sharing and not giving them the opportunity to understand, you know, my viewpoint. And it's not to say that they need to agree or anything like that, but if they don't have, you're taking away that opportunity for them to learn, or for them to at least see a different view and think about perhaps how they're working or what they're doing or anything like that.
I think that's so key there. I think there's a key message that's not been built up enough there, is that by saying nothing, people are losing out on the opportunity to grow. And there's, you know, there's so many businesses where people are going, it's not my business, I'm going to keep quiet. And then things start slowly failing. And then, you know, if everyone was to do that, nothing had changed. You'd do what you'd always done. And then organizations wonder why this culture or the people, the teams are not getting on with one another.
Yeah. And I think people worry about giving, whether it's constructive feedback or sharing their thoughts on something. I think they worry about that because of the way that it will come across. It's something, you know, my mum would always say to me, it's not what you say, it's the way that you say it.
Yeah.
But, you know, you have to be mindful of that, and you have to think about the way that you say things as much as you can. But I do think it's important that you share that. Otherwise you are, you know, I'm trying to remind myself that you're taking away the opportunity for somebody else. If you're just sitting there and kind of muttering about it in the background and not really.
Well, that's not helping anyone, is it? Because it frustrates you, and you can just see that the person's going to get really frustrated at the end of this project that might not work, or, you know, the outcome is slightly different to what they expected.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I really like that open, you know, the culture that has been created to enable that, and that there's that open dialogue to be able to do that. I mean, in order for that to work, there's, you know, you're in a position of trust that you're delivering the right message, it's being received in the right way. And as you say, that sometimes that doesn't come naturally, but, you know, you've got to go through that process of maybe delivering it not so well in the first place, to learn yourself, to then go, right, how am I going to approach this different? Because I know that the long term, that's going to benefit our business.
Yeah. And I think you're right that, you know, I'm quite straightforward, I suppose, naturally, in the way that I communicate, which perhaps doesn't always you know, align with a lot of other people. And sometimes I have had that situation where you've had to go, oh dear, okay, I perhaps didn't say that in the way that I wanted to say it. And
read the situation.
You have to kind of know that you can come back to that person and say, do you know what, and be honest and humble and say, look, do you know what, I didn't mean that in the way that came across. What I, you know, and kind of try again, or try a different view to get your point across in the way that you wanted. But it's taken me a lot to learn that you can kind of revisit those conversations, I suppose, if you messed up a little bit.
I'm loving that, though. I love the opportunity. So what do you think your superpower is then?
Oh, gosh. Again, that's a really tricky one.
Everyone's got one.
I know. I messaged a colleague, and then I thought, oh no, she didn't come back. She just must think I'm mad. So then I thought, right, Google, let's see what it said.
I'd be proper excited if you Googled what is my superpower, and it told you.
Yeah, well, I was like, right, how do you find out what your superpower is? How do you do this? And actually, it was quite.
I think you're overthinking this.
I know. That's a, you know, super weakness, I suppose. But I did look at it, and it did say, you know, what is the thing that people come to you for the most?
Yeah.
Right? And which is very dull for me, because a lot of times people come to me for Excel. Excel is the thing that I can just kind of, I love it. I would do it all day if I could. I know that's a big confession, but I would.
I
but
have a friend
actually,
like that as
yeah,
well.
oh, I love the formula. I love all of that kind of thing. But actually, what I realized then is that perhaps this is because like my brain works in like a very processed way that it can split, like, so that I suppose my superpower is finding that process and conceptualizing things that perhaps are really complicated, might be complicated or might be quite difficult initially to kind of get your head round, and then trying to think logically through it,
Yeah.
and be able to kind of share that or explain that to somebody.
Wow.
So I suppose that's, if I was gonna elaborate on my Excel superpower, that would be it.
I could just imagine that's yeah, the X and the L
Yeah,
on your costume.
yeah. I think it could work. I think it
I
could
do.
work.
Yes, I have got a friend who would say I absolutely love Excel and a formula. I
Mm.
think the challenge with him now is he also loves AI. So all he needs to do is to type into AI.
Yeah,
This is what I'm trying to get out of it, and it does it for him.
yeah.
He might need to find another superpower.
Goodness, yeah, AI is a bit of a thing, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know. I think that's my thing. Is I should just, could just sit there
But
all day and work it out.
But is Excel almost the outlet for you to be able to do that? So your superpower is that logical thought process, and Excel allows you to, put that
Yeah.
into practice.
Yeah, because you have to think, okay, well, what bit of information do I need here? What am I trying to show? And what are the steps involved for me to be able to show that?
Yeah.
And I suppose even if it wasn't in Excel and formulas, I suppose that as well is something that when I'm on, visiting people or on locations or whatever, that actually that does kind of help, because people don't receive information in the same way. And you have to think
Yeah.
about, one person, you explain it one way and they're like, yep, got it. I know what we're talking about. Somebody else is not going to receive that information in the same way. So you have to kind of think about, okay, right, these are the stages that I've got here. And this is my way of explaining that or
Yeah.
conceptualizing that to somebody who perhaps, receives information in a different way than I would. And I guess that's quite useful in safety, where people think about it as, oh my goodness, it's so complicated. It's lots of laws, lots of regulations. They just kind of panic, and you can see that kind of, I'm never going to understand this. And if
Yeah.
you can break it down into, look, these are the sections,
Yeah.
then it just makes it a bit more manageable.
And I guess, how do you then flex that superpower based on how the person's receiving that information? Because I'm just thinking that receiving a load of Excel stuff to some people will just freak them out, but the logical bit they get. How would you, present something slightly different to someone who's a visual thinker?
Yeah, so I used to work as a trainer in L&D.
Hey,
So again, similar challenges. So I used to find little visuals, cartoons, things that I could draw on whiteboards and what have you, that would just help people. I remember explaining challenges of ventilation systems with little cartoon particles that I used to just draw on the wall, and people used to think, gosh, she's gone a bit, where's this going, kind of thing. But actually by the end of it, they're like, I get it. And you've got all these little kind of particles with arms and legs running around.
yeah,
And then that kind of, for some people, that really stuck, because they're like, I can see what it is that, I can visualize that picture and
visualize
those
it. Yeah,
cartoon
yeah,
characters, and I can understand what it is. But I suppose as well, it helps because that's the way I would learn. Like, don't
yeah,
tell me a number, put it onto a pin pad or something, and I'm going to remember it more.
yeah.
So yeah.
Give me images any day, but I'll then just start connecting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm quite a logical thinker, but I would need to sort of create an animation, and then I suppose where then I'd have to stop myself is that animation. I couldn't release it until it's been really polished and it's perfect, and then people would go, "Oh, you've missed it now. Yeah, you've missed the opportunity."
It's hard, isn't it, when you're trying to get it, I don't know what's the word, that you get in your own way in some ways, because you want it
Yeah,
to be absolutely, perfect, and it's got to be the the right point. And if you go down that rabbit hole, you'll just be there forever, and it will never, like you said, it will never happen.
No.
But you've got to kind of say, okay, right, have the confidence, and now's the time to just put this out there and see what happens.
Yeah.
And if there's feedback is there for a reason, right? It might not be the best all of the time, but it's there for you to learn, and you just have to pick it up and kind of action it, I suppose.
So what prompted the move from L&D to health and safety? Or were you trained in health and safety?
I was trained in health and safety. So I actually used to work in operations.
Okay.
So I've got, so I did my degree in hospitality initially, then worked in operations, and then was seen to be quite entertained by the health and safety side of things, and was like, oh, off you go. Can you help this location here? I would spend, days at different places, learning different things and helping them with assessments and induction and things like that. And so that's what prompted me into the safety world. And then, I guess maybe those two things, having the safety and the hospitality and the service, kind of link to L&D, I guess, a little bit. Do you think that's influenced how you engage with people and how you stay so upbeat around a subject that is historically seen as Yeah, for sure. And I think it really helps, obviously, working in the industry where you have some kind of knowledge and understanding and appreciation of of the challenges that location might be having, or what they're trying to achieve, because you've been there and you kind of go, okay, like I understand that. So it does. And I don't know, it's either it's that nature nurture thing, isn't it? I don't know, maybe it's a bit of my personality anyway, but also I think it's a lot of support that I've had in terms of developing into the safety role and the safety profession, and knowing that it's okay to kind of have this personality. Because I know when I started, I thought, I've got to be very, like the police, kind of going around and doing this, and and there is an element of that for sure, like, but actually you can do it in a way that's really supportive and really engaging with people, and that actually I find that I get a better result from that kind of approach.
I think people see authentic people, don't they? And that's why people will gravitate towards them. And I think that's that's what you find. I mean, I've had conversations on the podcast before from people to go, I think because of my role, I need to behave like this. And then they quickly go, actually, the role is about what I bring to it and how I can get everyone else on board with it.
And you're right that if you start to behave in a way that isn't authentic to you, that everyone easily sees through that. Like it's very easy to see, and you just have to kind of be authentic, but also, achieve the outcomes that you need to achieve for the role that you have. Yeah.
Hey, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I didn't realise it would go down a route of Excel.
Fair enough.
If people want to find out a little bit more about what you do or who you're working for, then what's the best way to do that?
I guess LinkedIn is probably the standard. I'm on LinkedIn, so yeah.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you so much for our conversation. This has been Mindboost Moments. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to hear more, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. And if you want to learn how Mindboost can really add feeling and emotion to learning experiences within your business, check out our website at mindboostlearning.com.